I hate bugs. I hate all kinds of insects, such as flies, bees, even mosquitoes. But the one insect that I hate most of all is the common cockroach. To me, a cockroach is the scariest and most disgusting insect of them all. Ever since I was a kid and I saw a cockroach crawl on my food, I've always hated those kinds of bugs. The thought of something like that crawling on my body just gives me the creeps. I didn't know it when I was little, but one day, my worst nightmare would come true. In the most horrifying way that I could have ever imagined. Once I was all grown up, I moved out of my parents' house, and I moved into a house of my own. At first, I thought that it was the perfect house for me to live in, but I was mistaken. One day, when I was getting ready to eat some spaghetti in the comfort of my new home, I saw a cockroach crawling on the table. Naturally, I freaked out when I saw it. I grabbed one of my shoes and I crushed the cockroach until it was dead. I used a clean napkin to wrap the cockroach up and threw it in the trash. I thought that would be the end of it, but my nightmare was just beginning. After I threw the cockroach in the trash, I saw 2 more roaches on the floor. I grabbed a can of Raid to spray them, and those roaches died too. But then, I saw even more roaches appear as they were crawling all over the floor. Soon, my house became infested with roaches. It was like no matter what I did, they just kept coming. It wasn't long until I was dealing with an army of roaches. After I realized that they were too much of a problem for me to handle on my own, I decided to call an exterminator to get rid of the roaches. When the exterminator got to my house, he was beyond terrified by what he saw. He said that he'd never seen an infestation like mine in over 25 years. It was horrible. Truly horrible. The exterminator used his insecticide to kill half of the roaches. The other half managed to scatter and escape through some cracks and holes in the walls. The exterminator sprayed the cracks and the holes to make sure that the roaches wouldn't come back. He sprayed all around the house. The only place left to spray was the basement. I opened the door to the basement to let the exterminator in, so that he could spray down there and put an end to my roach problem for good. Once the door was open, the exterminator was confident that these would be the last of the roaches, but he was wrong. The exterminator went in, spraying the last of his insecticide all over the basement to make sure that he killed the rest of the roaches. As he was spraying, I let out a sigh of relief. I thought that my cockroach nightmare was finally over. Then suddenly, the spraying stopped, and everything was quiet. At first, I thought that meant that the exterminator had finished his job and killed the rest of the roaches. I called out to him, asking if he was done, but there was no answer. I called out to him again, but still, the exterminator didn't respond. I slowly walked down into the basement, where I saw the exterminator at the foot of the stairs, standing motionlessly. He was trembling with fear, and I didn't know why. I asked him if he was okay, as I put my hand on his shoulder. The exterminator whispered to me in a fearful tone, "Run. Get out of here before it's too late." I was confused by what he meant. I didn't understand what he meant until I saw what he was staring at that made him so scared. I too was struck with fear when I saw what he was looking at. In the center of my basement, just 5 feet away from us, there were a dozen giant cockroach larvae squirming around on the floor as if they were getting ready to emerge from their cocoons. They were as big as a dog. I was so scared by what I saw that I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I'd never seen something like this before. I didn't know what to do, and the exterminator was just as scared as I was. In fact, he was so scared that he dropped his insecticide on the ground, and he didn't have the courage to pick it up, for fear of what might happen if he did. As I was about to grab the exterminator by his shoulder to help lead him to the stairs, something even more horrible was down there with us. From out of the shadows, a beautiful woman appeared. but she didn't look human. This woman had brown hair, 2 antennae on her head, black soulless compound eyes, similar to the eyes of an insect, 4 arms, and she had the wings of a cockroach on her back. The exterminator and I were speechless. We didn't know who or what this creature was, or what it was doing in my basement. But we knew one thing. We had to get out of there quickly. Unfortunately, just as we were about to turn around, more of her children emerged from behind her. These roaches were even bigger than the ones in the center, and they looked as if they were ready for their meal. Then, without warning, the Roach Queen, as I now call her, pointed her finger towards us, and she let out a big hiss. Before we could react, her children immediately started crawling towards us with so much speed that we had no choice but to run back up the stairs and get out while we could. The exterminator sprayed his insecticide on the giant roaches, but for some reason, it didn't work. The insecticide didn't have any effect on them at all. Even the Roach Queen wasn't affected by it. It was as if they were all immune to it somehow. I managed to get away, but the exterminator wasn't as lucky as I was. I looked back and watched in horror as the Roach Queen's children devoured the exterminator alive. I could hear the exterminator screaming for me to help him from under the horde of roaches that were eating his flesh. I wanted to help him. Truly I did. But there was nothing that I could do for him. When the roaches were done with him, they left the exterminator's body nothing but a lifeless husk of bones. Then they crawled up the stairs, coming straight towards me. I turned around and started running again. As soon as I got to the top of the stairs, I closed the door to the basement, and I locked it from the outside. I could hear the giant roaches as they were banging on the door in a desperate attempt to get out so that they could eat me too. After I locked the basement door, I grabbed my keys, got into my car, and drove as far away from that godforsaken house as possible, and I never went back. I drove all the way to my parents' house and told them about what happened to me. I told them all about the Roach Queen and the giant cockroaches, but they didn't believe me. They thought that I was making it all up. Then my parents started laughing at me, thinking that I was joking around. But as they were laughing, I heard scratching noises and a hissing sound coming from outside. I turned around slowly, and I knew that it could only mean 2 things. The Roach Queen and her children had somehow escaped, and they'd followed me all the way to my parents' house.